If you would allow me a couple of moments to share with you a powerful conversation that I had with two clients of mine, a couple, and it's my hope that what I shared with them would be a help to you the way it was to them. Really quickly, a 39-year-old divorced man, no children, a 38-year-old divorced woman with one child, who had been dating for 5 months. They met one another and really hit it off. Both of them came from marriages where there was infidelity on the part of the other person. So they were not the ones at fault, I guess, to put it. And they came together. They had both, one of them had been, I think he had been divorced for maybe 2 years. She had been divorced for 2 or 3 years. So they had some time apart from their marriages that were both very short-lived. And they came to me, they said, because Doc, we watch your videos and we really want to try to make this work. We are both working on ourselves to become the best version of ourselves as we can. But we struggle with trusting one another. And I thought this was very interesting. So I asked them, I said, give me some examples of reasons why you don't trust one another. What are the things that the other person is doing? And the examples they mentioned weren't really that bad. He talked about how she, sometimes, would just kind of go and go long periods of the day, without, checking in with, him and just letting him know that she's okay. And, he said, Doc, I'm not trying to be, her dad or anything. But, if she's, going to be gone, on a trip and she's traveling out of town with her son, I want to just make sure that they made it okay. She'll go there, she'll get, settle with her family or whatever. And, she'll go hours and won't even call. I said, okay. I said, and she was just like, he pretty much doesn't really do many things that cause me not to trust him. But, oftentimes I just wonder in my mind, just like, can I really trust him? If he hangs out with his friends on the weekend, or if he hangs out with he's got a really good friend, a childhood friend that he hangs out with regularly that she's met, he'll be gone and hanging out with him. And she said, her mind will just start to wonder, is he really where he said he is? That kind of thing. I said, thinking about what the reasons you both are mentioning, these aren't very serious. I said, but let me ask you both a question. I said, do either of you like milk? They started laughing and said, Doc, you about to make a video out of us. I said, maybe, if with your permission, we'll see. I said, do either of you like milk? He likes milk. She doesn't. I said, perfect. I said, I don't like milk either. I can drink it in cereal. When I eat cereal, I don't eat a lot of cereal anymore. I could do it as a kid. I said, but drinking it standalone, I've just never really been a milk fan. I said, but when we were kids, my dad, if we were drinking milk with our cereal, sometimes we would open the milk and the milk wouldn't necessarily smell right. I said, at least it didn't to me because, while my brother and sister liked it, I didn't like it. And so if it didn't smell right to me, I would give it to my dad. And the first thing my dad would do is he would look at the container or the carton to see if the expiration date had passed. Well, I knew to do that. And so if the expiration date didn't pass, you would assume that the milk is some good, right? They said both. Both of them said yes. So I would check the expiration date. The expiration date hadn't passed, so you would think the milk was good. So then he would take the top off the milk. He would look in the milk to see if the milk had begun to separate, right? If the fat had begun to separate in the milk. So he taught me to do that. And I would sometimes look in there, didn't see it separated. So you would assume it would be good, right? They both said yes. I said, but the final thing he did is something I couldn't do. He would then take the milk and he would drink it out of the carton. She started getting grossed out like me. He was laughing. I said, why did he drink the milk? She said, I have no idea because I couldn't drink it. I said, me either. He said, probably to make sure that it wasn't bad. I said, but why did he have to drink it? He said, I'm not sure, Doc. I said, because he looked in there, could not see the fat separated, so it looked fine. He looked at the expiration date. The expiration date hadn't passed, so that seemed fine. The only way he would know is if he tasted it. He said, Doc, I'm still confused. I said, let me put it this way. You should never trust intuition when you're not healed. Because that milk might look like it's good. That milk may not have expired or extended its expiration date. But the only way you're going to know that milk is still good is if you can taste it. And the only way you're going to be able to taste it with good judgment is if you actually like milk. I asked them, I said, would it have helped me if I tasted the milk to determine if the milk was good? Both of them said no. I said, why? They said, because Doc, you don't like milk. I said, exactly. So then my perception of milk is going to automatically be negative. Why? Because I'm tasting it from a place where I don't like it. I said, and many of us have negative perceptions of things that may not necessarily be negative, but we're viewing them from the lens of a broken place. I said, I'm not saying either one of you are bad. To both of you seem like amazing people. I love your personalities, your spirits. You're doing the work on one another. You could very well be for one another. I said, but what both of you need to do is spend some time healing, apparently. I said, because what you're perceiving as the inability to trust could be coming from a lens of someone who's drinking milk who doesn't like it. You cannot accurately judge the quality of the milk if you don't like milk in the first place. And this is why I don't trust people who label or who are quick to label things as harmful or painful or even triggering when it's coming from a hurt place. It doesn't mean you don't have triggers because you're hurt. But what it does mean is you can't recognize your ability to come out of those triggers. You can't recognize your process of coming out of those triggers if you are evaluating them from a hurt place, which is why it is so important that before we connect with anybody else, that we take the time to heal ourselves. I said to them, I said, because many people have thrown away really good people because they judged them to be bad people or have bad behaviors or bad habits because they were judging milk and they were not healed. They were judging milk and they didn't like the milk. I said, is this making sense to them? They said, it makes perfect sense. It's so funny because he actually started crying and she began to console him. It was one of the sweetest moments I had experienced in a long time. I said, listen, I'm not telling you both to break up, not at all. But what I am saying is you all need to really make sure you take the time to heal. Take the time to heal. Maybe take 30, 60 days apart and take the time to really heal so that when you see one another, you can judge each other's behaviors, not from a lens of what happened in your marriage. Because that's what you're doing. You're evaluating your ability to trust your partner based on what the last partner did. And that's no different than me evaluating milk and I don't like it. I cannot give you a proper, fair assessment of anything when it's coming from an unhealed place. This is why I don't care what people say about intuition again. Intuition doesn't work well when you're not healed. It doesn't mean you can't recognize pain, but you also can't recognize progress either because you're already hurt. I hope this made sense. If it did, type church in the comments with 3 R's. And then remember, you've got 2 jobs. 1, be better today than what you were yesterday. And 2, don't forget what I told you. What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Zeb. Listen, I've been dying to make this announcement for a very long time now, and I'm pleased to say that Inspire Nation has officially launched. Yes, we finally got a Facebook and YouTube community group where we're going to have exclusive content, exclusive shorts, exclusive discussion prompts, where we're going to engage with other people literally around the world who are on the same healing journey that we're on. I need you to go find these pages right now on Facebook and YouTube. Inspire Nation, follow the page, join the group, introduce yourself, and be prepared to link up with literally thousands of people around the world who are on the same healing journey, who are looking for the same resources, and who want to also be surrounded with other like-minded individuals who are growing in the same direction as you are. I'm so excited about this because it's the beginning of some great things I can't talk about right now. Listen, you got 2 jobs. 1, be better today than what you were yesterday. And 2, don't forget what I told you.